Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Stormworks, where I'm building a new ship. And that's probably what this whole episode is going to be devoted to, building a new ship. The reason that I'm building a new ship is that I had an idea for a new design. I want to be building a hydrofoil, but a hydrofoil that can also perform as a normal ship. That's going to perform a couple of different roles. It could be performing the role of a ship that goes out into a heavy storm and rescues survivors. It could also go out at calm waters and at very high speeds make quick deliveries. So I would need it to do a couple of different roles. And to make sure it's stable enough, it is a really wide platform. And that should help with the stability. It still has a pretty sleek hull to make sure it can clip through the water. Now, I also want to make it a hydrofoil. And in case you're not familiar with the hydrofoil concept, this is the normal hull. And the more of your hull that you have in the water, the more water resistance you have. So the more engine power you need to go faster. The same, and I always tend to compare this to bikes because it's something that most people can just easily recognize. The bigger the wheels on the bike, the more road resistance you have. And that means that you have to pedal harder in order to go faster. The same more or less goes for boats. So the more of the boat is sticking to the water, the more hull contact, so the fatter the tire, the more hull contact you have, the more you're going to be slowed down. So what I want to do is lift as much of this hull out of the water as I possibly can, while still retaining the standard capability of moving into shallower waters or doing missions where I do not require the hydrofoils. One such thing would be an event as a storm. A hydrofoil is extremely unstable in a storm, as far as I know, that is. Now, a hydrofoil in this game can be created by using fin rudders. So you would have fin rudders, for example, here. And let's just flip those around. If you push these down, so if you give them an up input, this part of the hull is going to be pushed out of the water. And that means that you got less water resistance, you're going to go faster. But I don't always want those things to be in. Now, since you last saw this particular part, or this particular series, I have added a couple of new parts. I've unlocked a few things because I did some mission and got lucky and accepted a couple of loot crates along the way. So what I have is the track extension bases and the track base. You can put these on the side of your hull and use it as a way to lower fins into the water when you want to. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have these things on the side of the hull, and I know they don't look pretty. That's unfortunate, but cannot really be helped until I unlock the compact linear bases, which are these things, only way smaller. Alright, so these things are going to be having the fins. I would do it like that. And like this. And then I want the fin. Like that. So here's what's going to happen. This thing normally... Actually, I might just be able to delete that if I put these things a little lower. Normally this thing is going to be out of the water until I give this particular block, this track thing, what's it called again? The track base, until I give the track base the order to go down. In which case it's going to be moving along the track rail over here. And with that, it's going to lower the fins into the water. So up until the point where I do that, it is just a normal surface part of the ship. When I lower it, however, that's when these fins are going to be impacting the water, and that's when they're going to be pushing the ship up. So the way that this would look, I'm not even sure if this thing will float, because it doesn't exactly have any... Yeah, it does float, sort of. So I can show you what I have in mind. The ship is classed as outside of the workbench area. Probably because it's too deep. Here, give me a battery. And I need a throttle part. Let's put that one-sided, is very temporary anyway. Over there. Now these things are going to be sent towards this one and that one to give an up angle, or to give an up notification, or an up signal rather, to that fin. The thing is, you don't really need those to go up to 1, because if you send them a 1 signal, this fin is going to be pointing directly down. So like it would be like this, which is not what I want. So I would need something that does only, I think 0.2. I think that should be enough. Now I would also need something that sends an up or a down signal to these sliders. So we could go with a toggle, at least for the moment. Just a toggle up and a toggle down. This one is for down, this one is for up. And this is just to show you what I have in mind. And the same needs to be done here and oh, not both actually. You just need to go to down and you need to go to up. Alright, provide the whole bunch with power. There, and spawn it in. Alright, so here's what would happen. I would use this lever to then change the orientation of that fin. You can see that it is very slightly pointing down. It's not much, but it's enough. Right now it's already more or less inside the water, but that's also because my hull is open. If I would engage the hydrofoil, I would do this. Which doesn't actually do anything. Possibly because it doesn't have any power. Come on, get on the ship, or inside the ship. So I would do this, down. And for some reason it doesn't move down. Why is that? Hold on. Moves the slider indicated by the hollow arrow. Yes. Aha. No, still, this should work. No, I have them reversed, I think. Okay. Okay. One of them works, the other one does not. I'll fix that. This is what I have in mind. Now, if I angle the fin down, it becomes a hydrofoil. This does, however, lead you to have one problem, if not more than one. Because what's going to happen is that if you put your props back here, let's just say like that, you are going to have your props come out of the water, potentially. So what I would want is for my props to stay underwater. And I think I have created a solution for that, and that's in the form of a hinge. If I have a robotic hinge over here, and this one angles, or this one on the plus signal gets a down, or moves down. So this one is gonna turn itself towards the bottom of the ship until it stops about here. That would point my props right down. It's not exactly what I want though. I want my props not to be entirely down, but instead to have them at an angle. To still have them pointing backwards. So I would have another one of these, another hinge. And I need to make sure that it lines out with these ports. That is fluid, okay. And now that's power. No. Nope, they're crossed. Fluid, power. Okay. This is what I want. Now I can create another pipe, and I'm probably going to have to move this whole hinge system way further into the ship, otherwise it won't really work properly. I would have a pipe over here, and for now I'm just going to go with a couple of standards. And then my props, which are currently too far backwards. So right now they wouldn't work. Move the ship, as far as I can move it, that is. And the props, 1 and 2. Alright, once more. Battery. Throttle. This throttle gets, or sends a signal to here and to there. And gets power from the battery and to the throttle. That's all that I would need to do. Okay, let me just add a seat to make it a little easier to see. Okay, so now it is really dark. Yeah, you can kind of see that my props are sticking out way behind the ship at water level. Now I activate the throttle. And now they're underwater. And still sticking out to the back of the ship. So they're still pointing backwards. That is exactly what I want to have happen with this particular craft. So I would need this whole system to be isolated. Make sure that it doesn't actually let any water into the hull. Therefore, it would probably need to start about here and be completely covered up. So I would have the the hinge over here. Like that. And on the part where it connects to the ship, I only need to have the pipe of the power come into the craft. Like so. Because that's going to be my engine connection. I'm going to go up with one more pipe, so a straight pipe. And then add a couple of standard straight pipes as well here. I would only really need to do that on this side. Not so much over there, because this is fluid, and I don't need fluids to go to the propellers. Doesn't make sense. Alright, then another hinge. And then it's the tricky bit, because I need to make sure that this actually fits. Yep, that's power. And this one should be getting a plus input. Not sure if it works like this. Yeah, it works. Okay. Then I need a pipe. Yeah, I suppose an angle pipe could work. One there, angle it back again, split it using a T-piece. Angle it again, but this time in mirror mode. And now I would add my props. They would still be sticking out pretty far from the back of the ship, so I might just need to extend the hull and make sure that it goes all the way back. Let's just do that. Because ideally you'd want this whole system to be inside the ship under normal conditions. So I need to make the hull a little longer. Like that. Up, up, whoops. Up, up, and close it off. Close this off, not like that, here. And now just put a couple of blocks to fill this up and close off the whole section. Because all of that is going to be underwater. And I don't accidentally want it to let water into the ship. See, now my props are inside the water. And of course, there will be much more weight on this ship than there currently is. When I use that throttle, which I have now removed, the whole section should come into the water and go way deeper. And with that, also provide thrust when the ship is actually using its hydrofoil mode. For that, I'm going to be making a copy of this section and place it down slightly further in the back of the hull. and also make one of those systems over there. So bring up the selection grid, move it. This is one of the ways to move it, by the way. It needs to be a little taller, slightly farther back, not as wide. It doesn't need the buttons, it just needs this section. And that is all that I need. Alright, we're going to copy that. And I need to move a little bit more out of the way. Selection grid, drive it all the way back. And I think I can just pretty much carbon paste it here. Alright, so now I have it on one section. Now I can drag it over, and using the mirror keys, I can also put it in here. Paste. Done. Keep in mind, you need to merge these parts to the ship, otherwise it considers them as separate parts. And it's not really one ship anymore, it's more like several parts of a ship. To make this thing a little sleeker, you could go for something like this. Nah, screw it. I find it good enough. Okay. Next up, engineering. As I have mentioned, this ship is probably going to see quite a few changes. What I have unlocked currently are only the standard engine. So that's what I'm going to have to go with. A couple of basic engines. I'm going to point the engines forward. And I want to have my radiators over here. So the engines are going to come on this part. Could be further back, actually. So I want my radiators there. So the engine could come there. Like that. Okay. Now I can still use pipes. And probably the standard encapsulated pipes. Because this might very well already be my deck. And make sure that everything is hooked up. Alright, so that's my cooling set. Yes, I have my radiators inside the ship. Don't question it, it works. And it's pretty much the way that I like to do it. Exhausts. I'm going to wire those, yeah, just here. And pipe them back, angle, up, there. Alright, that pretty much concludes this part of the ship. So I can start to close that off, and I might need to open it up again later. But for the moment, I think it's fine. Alright, now we have the engines, and their fuel, of course, and air will also need to be addressed. I need to have the engines, and I have an engine input that needs to go there. So the power from these engines needs to go here, but it needs to go through gearboxes first. Gearbox. Mirror mode off. Pointing towards the engine. I will also need a clutch, so I need a bit of room for that. One like that. One like that, so I can also have a reverse mode. Then pipe it all together. Mirror mode on. Pipes. And a T-piece here. Actually make it a cross. So then I can also add a generator here. And make sure that I can recharge my batteries. Then comes the clutch. Yeah, okay, no, that's what I'm going to do. Then comes the clutch. Then comes another, either a T-piece or a pipe. But this should do. And another generator. This generator down here is going to spin way faster because it's going to be conducted through the gearboxes. The other ones, or the other one back there, probably won't spin as fast because it is not going to get accelerated by the gearboxes. So this is why I have two generators. If I have the clutch engaged, I still have power. Ideally, I would move the system one block back. Yeah. I'm going to have to move it one block back. Here's why. If I have this system one block back, I can then have the clutch, or rather the gearboxes, then the generator, and then the clutch. So that the gearbox, so here, pointing towards the engines, 1, 2, then a pipe, and let's make this, yeah, we can make it across, just not like that, more like this. Then the generators, 1 on each side, then a clutch, and then a pipe. The change of this setup is now I always have one of these gearboxes active, let's say on a 9 to 5 and probably on a 3 to 1 at the max. And with this system I will always have more generator output, because it's always going to be spun up faster as opposed to the previous design. I'm going to go with 3 batteries. Well, do I really need 3? How many have? I got 2 in stock. Okay, let's go for 1 then. Power it up in a minute. For the moment I want to see how far exactly this ship is going to be in the water. And see if I need to raise the deck area a bit. Because I very well might. I might find that the ship's too deep in the water. Send it in. It's not too bad. But if I also want to have cargo capacity on this ship, it might become a problem. So I might have to raise the deck a bit more. The thing is, I might, if I make another indentation like this though, like that, I would probably come into contact with the edge of the dock. I could move it slightly farther back, but not much. So it would have to be really close. Alright, we're going to do a bit more surgery. That was one too many. One of these, here, here, and here. How tall is this? 175. Okay. That's not too bad. The reason that I'm checking that is because if I want to make a position where I can actually be inside, or where I can have a bed or something like that inside the ship, you need to have it 175, because then you can just stand. So the deck would need to be this tall. That's a pretty sizable craft. But again, it allows for future expansion. That's why I'm going with it. Just expansion plans. A bit less there. One block too many here. So that would be the deck. It's a really bulky boat at this point. She's probably going to be sticking out of the water very, very high. Holy crap. Yeah, we're going to need to add more weight to that. Also, my center of mass is pretty high. It's over here. That square. So I need to make sure that that gets lowered. One way to do that would be to set up an active counterweight, which could work, but if you have just the standard linear track bases, it can also get pretty damn big. I would possibly do that here, but that kind of overrides the whole idea of having a cabin. No, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is just fill all of this up with weight blocks. And by doing so, make the weight of the ship, the center of mass, lower. And I might need to add more to that. Alright then, we still have a few more things to do. We got fuel to take care of and air. For the air, I want to be in the front of the boat, just the bow. Unfortunately, I cannot keep cutting through the hull, or at least not too much. So I need to pipe this forward and then down, actually. Come on. There. Down. Then another pipe. And I could actually use the bottom of the boat, so I don't have any pipes going through my cabin. So this would need to be an angled block. Like that. That comes back up right about here. And then I would have a couple of straight pipes. And they would go here. So that's my air intake. And I can now link that up to the deck of the boat. Okay, so that's going to be... Actually, I might be able to hide it like this. Now it doesn't interact with my design too much. At least for a future cabin. Alright, so my air intake is probably going to be about here, which I would just use ports for. Just a couple of air intakes. There's no real reason to go with 4, but I want to try and make it look alright. And thanks to all these new pipe pieces, it's now actually pretty easy to get all these things together. Easier than it was, anyway. Because you'd have to go with all sorts of weird pipe designs. Whereas now you can take one of these things, and you can just pipe it all together. Oh, come on, game. For some reason, it's really fighting me here. There. Okay, pipe that in. And we're done. So now it has an air intake. We were working on the exhaust as well. That was going to be a couple of straight pipes. Pretty much straight through the deck. And I might beautify that at some point, make it a little prettier than it currently is. But for now, this is where I'm going to put my exhausts. Also, let's lower the whole platform. There. Alright. We're moving along pretty nicely. And this is where I'm going to end today's episode. Now that I have an idea of how this is going to look and what the ship is going to do, or at least how I want it to perform, we can pretty quickly proceed with setting up the rest of the craft with the superstructure. But that is going to take a bit more time. So join me next time on next time's episode, where we're going to be doing the interior workings of the craft and control surfaces, buttons, seat, etc. So join me next time, and I will happily talk you through the rest. See you soon.